All right. Welcome everybody to another Make Money Monday presented to you by the Pinellas County Urban League and our Tampa Bay Anchors Urban Alliance, specifically our Next Level Urban Alliance for our entrepreneurs. And we're really excited tonight to have one of our local entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneur, that is a fantastic representation of what you would like to do when you go to scale your businesses. And so before I have Marielle to introduce her and let you know a little bit more about her, I want to highlight the fact that this past weekend she was a part of our Freedom Conference, the Sankofa first Freedom Conference that we've had as an urban league was held on Juneteenth. We kicked it off at Boyd Hill with some outstanding agribusiness information and connections to opportunities for land ownership while highlighting some of our other Next Level Urban Alliance members as well. And then we went right into Saturday with some more education information, sharing ways to make sure that you're building generational wealth and taking care of your health at the same time. So we had a phenomenal kickoff to the conference by Miss Shawntavia that I know she'll share even more about this evening. And then we went into a power pack panel that included opportunities to learn even more about land purchases and agribusiness and health. So this is an opportunity for us to continue that good work, keep it going, and through this signature program for the Next Level Urban Alliance with Make Money Mondays, we will continue to bring that to you on a regular basis. Again, I'm happy to bring to you our Make Money Mondays. I'm Nikki Gaskin Capehart, President and CEO of the Pinellas County Urban League. We look forward to offering you more opportunities like this to stay engaged and to become a member of the Next Level Urban Alliance so that we can continue to further our reach to our entrepreneurship ecosystem. So we look forward to hearing from you tonight. Please engage in the comment section on the chat. There are opportunities for Shawntavia and Marielle to continue the conversation and bring you in on it on some of the things that you like, even more specific details around. So look forward to that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Marielle. Thank you.
Thank you, President Capehart. And again, very excited to have you all here at Make Money Mondays, a part of our digital learning series here at the Pinellas County Urban League. We have had a tremendous spring programming, and this Make Money Mondays will be our final one for the spring before we gear up for the fall. So we have a treat this evening, and I want to go ahead and introduce our guest speaker for tonight because we have a lot to learn. Shawntavia Turner is our guest tonight. She's a licensed real estate broker, entrepreneur, community-focused developer based right here in St. Petersburg, as the broker and owner of Turnkey Real Estate Brokerage and the managing owner of Turnkey Mortgages and the Turnkey School of Real Estate. She brings over 17 years of experience in real estate brokerage, business and business management, and investment strategy. So tonight's conversation is really going to focus on how to diversify that portfolio, how real estate investing is not as linear as it sounds. As you see, I just mentioned several of Ms. Turner's arms, and so we're excited to dive right in. But she's been doing this a while, since 2019. She's been actively developing affordable housing right here in our city with a mission to increase home ownership and build sustainable communities. She holds a bachelor's of applied science and management and organizational leadership, along with additional associate's degrees in business administration, entrepreneurship, and project management. So as a speaker tonight, she plans to bring us some real world insight, some actionable strategies, and an authentic perspective on wealth building through real estate, affordable housing, and entrepreneurship. So, welcome, Shawntavia. Want to welcome you. How are you this evening?
I am great. That was one introduction, right? I'm blessed to be here. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to engaging with the community and giving some gems so that we all can build wealth together and keep on with that Sankofa dream of looking backwards to see where we can go forward.
Yes, yes. Now, you've prepared quite a presentation for us, but as President Capehart mentioned, you participated in our Sankofa Freedom Conference this past weekend. What was your experience, and maybe what was kind of some of your favorite parts about it?
It was a great turnout. I really enjoyed the Land to Legacy workshop that I was able to be a part of. I was able to one on answer questions one on one and kind of give people real world insight that was focused on what their goals are, short term and long term, and provide some land ownership opportunities that otherwise people don't know that it's very affordable. I love the panel. It was very diverse and it gave multiple aspects of wealth, not just monetary, but the mental health part, the health is wealth thing. I love that component. So it was great community engagement and a great turnout.
Awesome, awesome. And we appreciate you giving back. You've been a member of Next Level Urban Alliance for a while. As far as your membership, how has that been for you?
Oh, it's been great. I knew Urban League did a lot, and it's great to see it on this side to be a part of it because I saw the presence in the community, but to see the different programs and how it's evolved from when I was growing up and thought the Urban League only did like utility assistance. So it's so great being a member to see it on this side, to see the wealth of a community engagement and opportunities of how they really want to help the community and how they're there to really build up the community. So it's been great being a member because I get to see the other side of that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, speaking of other side, let's jump right in because tonight you have prepared for us kind of the other side of real estate. So I want to give you the opportunity to turn it over and take the floor for tonight's presentation.
Alrighty. Again, thank you for having me. And tonight we're going to focus on building wealth through portfolio diversification. And I really hope that everyone gets an opportunity to, one, understand what portfolio diversification means and how that relates specifically in real estate and how wealth is built and how we manage risk through investing with our portfolio. So tonight's topic is portfolio diversification with the focus on real estate investing. I intend on presenting different investment strategies that helps you guys determine which route you want to go in investing, specifically in real estate, and how to diversify those risks. So first, let's jump in to identify what portfolio diversification is and what does that mean. And I know everyone hears the saying of don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? That pertains to a lot of things in life. But here, when we're talking about investing, it definitely holds a highlight or a light on diversifying, which is not really eliminating risk, but it's how to manage the risk. Because in any investment, you're going to have some type of risk, right? So we want to make sure that we identify those risks. We are aware of them when we're investing, but we also come up with ways of how do we minimize those risks so we don't go under or we have bad investments. So tonight, hopefully, you guys can get some gems on what does a diverse portfolio look like and how do we mitigate those risks and manage those so we can continue to invest and reap profit from those investments. Alrighty, so let's get into what portfolio diversification is. So diversification is going to be just the practice of spreading your investments across various platforms and asset classes to reduce risk and improve our long-term financial stability. So some of your common portfolio investment options is stocks, bonds, mutual funds, EFTs, which is going to be those exchange trade funds. So you're going to think about EFT as kind of like a basket of all of your stocks, and a basket of stocks, bonds, commodities. It's kind of all those things in one little basket. That's our EFT. We have retirement accounts, real estate, of course, business ownership, and then cash on cash equivalents. So tonight, we really want to focus on real estate because that's my lane and that's my expertise. But there are so many other common asset classes that you can invest in to diversify. And diversify is really just kind of minimizing those risks, so we don't have all of our eggs in one basket, right? So the next slide is going to be about why real estate is different, right? What are the benefits of investing in real estate? So one, it gives us a benefit of some type of cash flow, appreciation. We have tax benefits, some inflation hedging. And through all the other investment types, like I stated before, you're going to have risk, right? But without the risk, there's no return. So some of your most popular investment strategies could be savings account. And as you can see, that has a very low risk, but you also have a very low return potential. Your bonds is low to medium or moderate return. We have stocks, which is medium higher to high return. Real estate is a medium risk, but there is high return. And then business ownership, which is a high risk, and it also potentially gives you some type of high return in it. So specifically in real estate, we have one of the benefits is going to be cash flow. So cash flow, think of it like your monthly rental income. And we can use this as some type of supplemental income, and we most know it as passive income, right? So the term passive income is I'm not doing anything. I'm not kind of farming it. I'm not focusing on it. But in the interim, right, in the background, it's going to give me profits. It's going to give me that type of residual monthly income without me having to do anything with it. So that's going to be cash flow. Another advantage or benefit in investing in real estate is going to be appreciation. So property values typically increase over time. Now, back in COVID days, right, 2019, 2020, we had a really, really great appreciation.
Uh-oh. I think we might have got frozen for just a second. Y'all bear with us. So I believe our speaker may have lost connection for just a second. So y'all bear with us. Thank y'all for tuning in to Make Money Mondays. As y'all can see, we are off to a great start, filled with information. Give Shawntavia a moment to get back on. But if you're just tuning in, we are on with Shawntavia Turner from Turnkey Realty, and she was really kind of just getting into the crux of the benefits. And here she is back. Okay. Hang on. I'm gonna add you back to the stage.
Okay.
Here we are. And we're back live.
Okay, so my apologies, my computer went blank. So I was talking about the benefits of real estate. So some of the other benefits of real estate, we talked about cash flow, right? That investment, that cash flow, that passive income. We do that through rental income. Let's go back to, I think I can get back on here. And then we have appreciation, which is the property values, right, increasing over time. And I was talking about when we were in COVID days, we had about a 30% annual increase from year over year. So values shot up. We don't see that much increasing now in equity, but That's another benefit is the appreciation in real estate. So other tax advantages is going to be depreciation, your tax write-offs, and your 1031 exchanges. So these are other benefits. So owning real estate gives you the benefits of being able to save on your taxes. One is we can add depreciation for residential properties and commercial properties every year, and we can reduce our tax liabilities by owning real estate. So that's another advantage. A 1031 exchange is going to be, let's say I owe $100,000 in taxes for my income. I can take the amount that I would pay the IRS in taxes and I can reinvest that in real estate to avoid paying taxes. So the exchange allows you to reinvest that income tax liability to reinvest in real estate without having to pay your taxes. So that's definitely a plus with owning real estate and being able to reinvest that income. Another way is going to be to leverage. So we're able to pledge our portfolio sometimes as collateral, and we can borrow against that portfolio. So instead of you putting cash down, we can lower our cash out of pocket as a down payment, and we can now borrow against properties, borrow against our portfolios, borrow against our stocks and bonds, our insurance policies, right? We can borrow against those and keep our cash liquid. And then inflation is probably a huge one, especially if you're a renter now, you will appreciate the inflation hedge when it's talking
Mm.
about leveraging that. So instead of renting properties, right, and every year inflation increases your rent rates about 3% every year, your mortgage payment is typically a fixed one. So you don't have to increase your mortgage payment. You'll know exactly for the next 30 years, my principal and interest is going to be the same payment every month, no matter what the economy does. So it hedges us against inflation, and we can kind of predict and kind of plan better when we have that assurance of we've invested and we've kind of got that blanket over us from inflation hedging. So those are typically typical benefits of investing in real estate. And the key point here is that you can do all of them at the same time. So the real true benefit is that I can capitalize off of all of these benefits at the same time, even off of one property. So not
Mm.
only am I saving more cash and I'm becoming liquid, right? I have cash flow, meaning I have income, and my investment is paying off the mortgage, right? Because I'm now renting it out. So it's going to satisfy my mortgage. I'm also getting appreciation and equity that I can borrow against, right? And have that freed up amount. I'm saving on my taxes and I can reinvest that money to get more assets. And then I'm also hedging myself against that inflation component that the economy has is year over year. So those are your key advantages of investing in real estate. And I want to know if there's any questions right now, or is there anything you want me to kind of recap or dive deep in at the moment, or are we all good?
I so first of all, I think that is so much information for me that I'm still processing it. But for those who are watching live, drop your questions in the comments. We are here live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. We are live on LinkedIn. And if you go ahead and type your questions in the comments, Shawntavia will be happy um, to go ahead and answer. But this is great. I don't want to stop you. You're rolling.
Right, I want to roll. Okay, so the next slide, we're going to talk about understanding the risk versus investment. Like we already kind of put up that risk versus return, kind of the common investment strategies with the risk associated with them. And the goal is typically not really finding the highest return. It's really balancing risk and reward. So we want to make sure that we not only think about all the benefits and the income, right, and the assets we're gaining and how much that's going to make you worth, but we also want to make sure that the reward is worth the risk, because you don't want to get in over your head thinking about that in potential and not factoring in all of those components that really make investing challenging, right? All of those risks that come associated with investing the money in it. So we want to make sure that when we're trying to determine which way do we go, what do we invest our dollars in, that we do our research and we educate ourselves and it make sure that it fits your goals. So not everyone wants to uh get into understanding, right, the stock market and stocks and bonds. Not everybody has a thing for real estate and being able to project and look at those economic indicators that tells us, yes, real estate is great right now, like we saw in 2020, 2019, 2021, when we had 2 and 3% interest rates. But you have to also factor in the risk that when the everything is cyclical. So when the economy does a downturn and now we're at 5 and 6% interest rates, that we factored in those risks, right? That we factored in, hey, if I did not get a fixed rate and I did an ARM, which is an adjustable rate mortgage, and I'm thinking about um oh, it was going to get better down the road, that we've also thought about those risks as well as we thought about those returns. So you want to make sure that when you're educating yourself, that you're picking something that fits your wheelhouse and it matches your goals of what you want to do and what you're looking to achieve long term for legacy building and generational wealth as well. Something not only that you can keep up, but that your generations to come can manage and understand as well. So that kind of will help assist you determine which route is the best investment strategy. So now we're going to talk about the most popular real estate investment strategies that we see in the marketplace. So the first one is buy and hold. Then we have fix and flip. We have short-term rentals and new construction development. I personally have a diverse real estate portfolio, and I have a little bit of all of these. Um, and it's a balance of risk and reward as well. So the first one are buy and hold. So buy and hold is when you purchase a property to hold it for the purposes of that passive cash flow, right? That we talked about. It's like you buying a property to hold it, to rent it out, hoping that the rent rates sustain themselves and the rental rent that you're collecting satisfies your mortgage. That way, not only could it satisfy your mortgage and it pays off the debt for you, but it also gives you some type of cash flow. And we're going to do an example later on in the presentation so you can kind of see it, real life example with numbers. So you purchase the property. Typically, it's a property that you're going to rent out, commercial or residential, and then you're going to hold it long term. This is kind of the slow game, right? So the benefits is cash flow. You're going to gain that appreciation because remember, every year real estate values increase. They may increase slowly in some years or markets other than others, but you typically see an appreciation. And then we have that equity growth that you can borrow against in the future, reinvest it, and purchase another one. So it's definitely the long game. So that's buy and hold strategy. Then we have our fix and flip strategy. So this is when you purchase distressed properties and you renovate them. And so not only remember, now we got to have the cash to purchase or do a fix and flip loan, and we got to have the funds to renovate. But this is where the education component comes in at, because you have to also count for the time that you have to renovate, right? You still got to pay your mortgage or some type of interest on it. And it also, you have to determine in what market are your renovations going to be done so you can sell it for a profit. And what does the profit look like, right? When do I break even and how much profit am I trying to achieve based off this investment? So the benefits of your fix and flip is going to be short-term gains and it's quick capital growth. So your fix and flip should be less than 6 months on a project. So you acquire the property, you do your renovations, and then you quickly put it back on the market for sale. And that's your fix and flip, hence the word flipping, right? So that's our house flipping. And instantly you'll gain the equity from all of the improvements. Hopefully it's in a great market that you can gain the equity growth off that as well. And then it's kind of a quick way to capital, and you should be reinvesting that dollar because you don't have the asset anymore. So remember, our buy and hold, not only are we getting cash flow, it's the long game, but we retain our assets. A fix and flip, we are fixing it up, renovating it, and we are quickly selling it. So we got a one-time payout. There is no cash flow. It is a quick way to capital, but you also got to manage that capital because there's no more after that, right? We've sold the asset and we are on to the next. So that's the fix and flip strategy. The risk there is construction overturns, right? We're renovating. So when we start to renovate properties, we start to knock down walls and change floor plans, and we come upon issues that we didn't account for in our budget. So you want to make sure that you are planning this out thoroughly, that you have support from your contractors and those relationships that really support great lenders as well for your interest. And also accounting for market fluctuations, right? So you might be purchasing pre-hurricane and you're renovating, everything's going smoothly, and boom, in Florida, we have a hurricane, right? Hurricane season comes and it wipes us out, and we no longer can either manage that investment or we have flooding or whatever it is. So you got to make sure that you have the ability to mitigate that, because that is an additional risk when you're fixing and flipping and the market changes or you come upon construction issues. So that's our second strategy. Our third strategy is going to be our short-term rentals. I see a lot of people trying to get into the short-term rental space, and social media really gives you all of this hoopla around it. And there are some benefits of it, but it's definitely a seasonality to it. And there are a lot of regulations that most people aren't aware of. That's why I say education is going to be key here to managing the risk, because you got to make sure that the market you're purchasing in allows for you to have these short-term rentals. A lot of cities, including City of St. Pete, do not allow short-term rentals. Pinellas Park does, some other unincorporated areas in Pinellas County does, but the City of St. Pete does not. Even though we do see them listed on Airbnb and we see them available, the regulations and the rules in the City of St. Pete does not allow for it. So it is definitely a seasonality to it, and you can be doing it, but not be doing it legally. So we want to make sure that we understand short-term rentals and educate ourselves. And we're thinking about that Airbnb, that VRBO, right? That vacation rental market. That's what our short-term rentals are going to be. It does give you higher income potential because it does give you that cash flow, right? One great weekend can pay the entire mortgage payment, and then you have all the other 25 days of the month to rent it out and have some type of income. And so it does pose some type of good cash flow, but there are a lot of risks with short-term rentals. So just educate yourself and be aware of all the risk. And then our fourth opportunity or strategy is going to be our new construction development. And this is the space that I thrive in with new construction development. I have been a developing partner for the City of St. Pete since 2019 through my partnership with Vision Investors. We develop affordable housing with the City of St. Pete. So this is a really, really great opportunity for you to get a really high return and higher profit margins. So your new construction development is you finding land, maybe partnering with someone to find the land and getting a construction loan or self-funding to pay for the construction costs to build and then to resell that. There is greater control if you're doing new construction development, because if there is an issue with construction, you created it, right? So it's unlike our fix and flip when we're renovating something that's old, typically 1950, 1930s home, right? So many issues, got to bring things up to code. But if we're developing a brand new construction, we're building everything to code. We don't have any unforeseen issues besides weather, right? Or damages from construction. But it's pretty much any issues that arise, you've caused it. So you have greater control if you're doing new construction development. The risk with new construction development, though, is going to be financing, being bankable, I would say, and having the opportunity, right, having your credit right, having those reserve funds to be able to carry yourself through that construction phase and paying those interest fees and all of that. Construction costs, right? You also got to pay for the construction. If you don't get a loan, like I said, you might want to self-fund the first one or two times to kind of become bankable. And then another risk is going to be your permit delays. Remember, we are in Florida and the weather is horrible, especially when we're approaching hurricane season. So now you have those permitting delays, you have weather delays that can delay a project. And if you got a construction loan, then you're paying interest month to month to try to carry yourself when you're not receiving any profit. So having a reserve account or reserve funds will be very beneficial if you're doing new construction development, but the margins of profit is probably higher than all the rest because your construction cost is not going to be your market value, right? So some of your construction costs, let's say just for numbers sake, maybe around 200,000, 250,000, but that will produce a market value of about 450,000 to $500,000 in the right neighborhood. So you can see how that profit margin, right? 4 months of construction on one project, we're at $250,000 profit, right? We're breaking some really nice money that we can reinvest purchase other properties, try another strategy, or continue to, rent, cycle, and repeat. So those are our four most common investment strategies dealing with real estate.
So,
Do we have anything?
before we go to the next one, because you talked a lot about just risk, just different types, eliminating risk altogether, reducing risk, kind of not being afraid. The question is, how do you balance wanting growth but also wanting safety?
Right. So for me, I everything I do has to align with my purpose, and it has to align with what my ultimate goal is. So I approach every opportunity um as if it's kind of the only opportunity. I don't really factor in what I've done and all the other success stories when I'm approaching um a new opportunity. So I factor in all of the risk, and I kind of look at the risk more than I look at the reward, because I know it's an investment. I know I'm going to profit on every opportunity, right? My thing is, how do I mitigate the risk, and what opportunity gives me the least amount of risk, but the kind of the ease into it. And like I said, my wheelhouse was new construction development. Just because my partners, that kind of was the first lane that we did, and
Right.
it was so successful. We had a great opportunity that the city presented to us that we were able to capitalize on. So for me, that was kind of like gravy, and I just rode out with that, and that's kind of the bulk of what I do.
Right.
But I'm also a mortgage lender, so I know the risk reward
Hmm.
on the lending side, and I kind of know the cash injections and the risk of my cash being liquid. But I also understand my financials. So understanding what I can do, what I'm capable of, right? My capacity, my financial capacity outside of my personal funds, and making sure that I'm not overstepping the two.
Hmm.
I'm also making sure that I have a goal on every opportunity of what it is that I'm trying to achieve. So I'm just not willy-nilly out here blindly trying to just get all the money that I can, but it's actually
Right.
fulfilling a purpose and a need, but it's also reaping some type of profit as well. So it's a lot of things that go into when I'm assessing a project. And there's a ton of other strategies of how we approach things, like for instance, if we're doing multifamily like apartments and stuff, or we're doing gross rent multipliers. So that's a calculation that's kind of telling me, based off of the rent rates, how much should the property be worth. So this is kind of my approach to telling me, don't over improve an area, right?
Mm.
Don't think that because you're building something new, and I know St. Peter's like a great rental market, that I can charge whatever and you're going to come. And that will lead you to developing in the wrong community,
Mm.
expecting the wrong kind of rental rates, and you're over improving. That means I'm not recouping as much as I can. I've opened myself up to other risk. So planning is going to be key in understanding the investment strategies, and understanding how to calculate it. So when we go to another slide later on, it's going to tell us about that kind of analyzing our investment properties and the approaches that we should take on it. And we're going to talk about return on investment, which is identifying, what is my goal, right? How much am I trying to seek off of this? Is it that long-term cash flow, just 'cause I want generational wealth? I'm comfortable right now in my 9 to 5, right? And I have enough money to live. I want my generations after me to have it. That should lead you towards a buy and hold strategy, right? So
Mm.
your goals should really structure which investment strategy you should be applying yourself towards, because it's going to be based off what you want to do and what your ultimate goals are.
That's great. That's great.
Sorry,
Let's
that was a
keep going.
handful, but
That's a perfect answer. Let's keep going.
so that leads us right into our analyzing the investment property. So great question, because that is going to help us analyze what should we be doing, right? Everybody's not going to have the patience to deal with 35 vendors and build ground up construction and go through planning, understanding blueprints and hiring contractors, right? So that may not be for everybody. So understanding what you want to do and analyzing every opportunity. So gross rents, cash flow, cap rates, cash on cash returns. What do I want my full return to be on an investment? These topics are going to be the way that you should approach an investment property. So for our gross rent that's going to tell us about monthly rental income, right? We kind of talked about what do I want to have. So passive income, let's say I want to at least make $2,500 a month off of a property once I break even, or $500, right? $700. And then that will give me an annual return of XYZ, right? So that way, if that satisfies you, then you should be doing that kind of cash flow buy and hold opportunity. If we're doing, excuse me, cash flowing, you also have to take in consideration income minus expenses. Now that I have a property that I'm renting, I have tenant expenses, right? I also still have repairs. So now I have to budget for those reserves. Something is going to go wrong on the house, and tenants, because they're not owning it, will damage your property as well. So now I have to factor in that reserve account for repairs. I also got to factor in homeowners insurance, right? That may go up. Property taxes may go up, and I may not be good at communicating and managing money. So now I got to hire a CPA. Now I got to hire a property management company, because I don't want to be the face of it. I don't want to do tenant screening. I don't want to hold security deposits. I don't want to have to sue you and go to court to evict you, right? So now I got to factor in all these other expenses that's going to eat away at my profits. But if we're doing buy and hold, you have to factor in all of the expense risk associated with it. Cap rate. So a cap rate is going to be how we measure a property's performance. So a lot of investors have a minimum cap rate, which is a capitalization rate of how they want to see their return, right? At what rate do I want to recoup my money back? And we approach a property and we do this calculation, which we have in the next slide, that's going to show us, okay, most investors have a bottom line that this is the rate that I will jump in bed with always, all day. If it's going to give me a return at this percentage, it is a deal that I want to jump all over. So once you understand how to analyze that return of your money, then you can approach a property that way as well, by saying, hey, this is how am I identifying a project that's for me or not. So the cap rate is the annual rate of return on your money. And cash on cash return, that's going to be a way to measure the return of invested cash. So this is your cash yields on income producing assets. So on that cash flow, that rental thing, we can also approach it by doing a cash on cash return assessment to see if that's what we want to do. And then the last strategy for analyzing your property, or a key metric, I like to say like, yes, this property is for me. No, this investment strategy is not for me, is a return on our investment, or ROI. So this is going to be your overall profitability. So this is how well and how efficient your property is going to recoup or retain your overall income. So it's like, how well does this property do, and how fast will I break even and start seeing true actual profits year after year on an annual basis. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to kind of put numbers to this, and we're going to break it down so you can understand how it goes. So this is our example. So if we're going to assess the property by our cap rate, we're going to start with the purchase price of $250,000. And this is going to give us a monthly income, let's say at $2,200. We have a monthly expense at $1,500, right? So all of our property management fees, our taxes, our mortgage, all of our expenses, let's say at $1,500. This will tell us that our monthly cash flow is $700. So a cap rate, if we're doing that key metric to approach it to say, hey, is this for me or not? We take our operating income, right? So right now we know, based of our financials that we just talked about, our annual cash flow is $8,400 a year based off of our profit of $700 a month. And then we divide that by our property value. So let's say the purchase price, remember, was $250, and now we're profiting $8,400 a year on a $250,000 profit. That gives you a cap rate of 3.3. So now you can approach a property. Like I said, most investors do the math based off of what you want to profit annually to satisfy whatever need, whatever strategies you have. And you can determine and approach a property to say, hey, this opportunity presented itself. My cap rate, right? My bottom line, 5%, 8%, will let me know if I want to jump in bed on an opportunity. So now that we do the financials and we're seeing that we're at a cap rate of 3%, that may not be an opportunity for you, right? That means that the cash flow is very small, minimum at 700, and you may be looking for something that produces a larger cash flow. And that could be based on anything, right? I want to send my kids off to college and I don't want them to have to pay for an apartment. So I need to be able to cover their apartment expense in this investment. So now we're factoring all of that. So maybe we need to purchase a larger property or find a community that has better rental rates on this type of property, right? So this is how we kind of assess, is this property right for me or not? The next opportunity or key metric we can do, like I said, was that cash on cash return. So we're going to take that pre-tax cash flow, right, the NOI, and in this case, it was 8,400, and we're going to divide it by the total amount of cash that we've invested thus far. That will give us our cash on cash return and tell us at the end of the year, this is how much cash that we've gotten, and this is return, right, cash to cash, apples to apples. And the ROI, or return on investment, key metric, is taking that net profit and dividing it by the cost of the investment. So this gives us the return rate of our income, right? How quickly or how fast do we break even to say that, okay, now at this point, right, 3 years from now, it is all profit, right? So that's us saying that, oh, if I purchase this property, I will completely have it paid off, right? My investment will pay itself off in 5 years, and the rest is directly profit. So this is a way, especially on your multifamily, your commercial properties, that we kind of do return on investment, and we look and approach that strategy by return on investment and say, how quickly do I break even, and how many years would it take me to pay off this and seek full profit? So that's actually putting numbers to our strategies and kind of getting a real life example of where do we land and how do we measure success of a strategy or not. And remember, success looks different for everybody. The strategy has to fit you, right? It has to fit your ultimate goals, short term and long term, calculating all the risks, counting up the costs per se, and reminding ourselves that we may not seek a huge investment this way, but we can do multiple strategies, diversify our portfolio, eliminate all the eggs in one basket, and kind of spread ourselves over the real estate strategy investment pool and minimize the risk by having multiple strategies to access that profit. So those are going to be our investment strategies. Any questions or any comments?
We got some folks tuned in live. Demetria from Facebook says this is some really great information, and I think you're breaking down, what it means to have a responsible portfolio. But we still have people who are out here who are maybe scared to invest because they've seen maybe someone lose money. Can you talk about how maybe the diversification of your skill set? Because you mentioned a few different skills very casually, but how has that helped you kind of eliminate risk or reduce risk, or just kind of have this awareness that you have on how to apply these different strategies to build wealth?
Right, great question. So, my background in real estate allowed me to assess a property and really see the full return when we're doing net proceed sheets, right, as realtors for our sellers, and we're calculating and trying to show our sellers, hey, if you sell it for this, your mortgage is this, you break even after you pay me, this is how much you walk away with, right? So over the years, seeing how someone who owned their home for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, right? And now they're downsizing, they no longer need this 3,000 square foot house. All kids are off to college, they're empty nesters, and now they have this no need for it. I don't want to maintain the yard or anything, and I'm going down to a condo. I want to cash out, sell this property, right? Now we got 20 years of equity, right? They've paid off that mortgage down and pretty much paid it off. A lot of people have 15-year mortgages as well. And they've paid that thing off, and now they have hundreds of thousands, $175,000 profit at closing, that they take that and they go and buy a property cash or a smaller property And now they have that savings. So seeing that was like, okay, one thing I need to do is own real estate, right? I need to own a primary residence so that I can now leverage that. I can pull equity, reinvest, because I know that this asset is going to return some type of money on my money year after year after year, and I can borrow and leverage against that. So that was key number one, getting into real estate and helping others achieve their dream had me to start thinking like, okay, my wheels are turning. Let me kind of get in the game myself.
Yeah.
And I will never forget, I had went to a banker. This is when I really was fresh in real estate. And my first year in real estate, I had did 2 million in sales. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am doing it. So I thought. And I went to my banker and I'm like, okay, you manage everyone's portfolios. What are you seeing in the marketplace? What do I need to be doing to kind of, increase my wealth and kind of be, the American dream? And he told me one thing you have to do is own a primary real estate and get an insurance policy. And at the time, I was so blown because I'm like, sir, what are you talking about? I got cash. I got money. Like, I'm trying to see what do I need to invest in, right? Because I really want to gain wealth. And he wouldn't tell me anything. He wanted me to do my research. And he said, come back to me when you own a primary residence and you own an insurance policy. So for me, I was like, okay, I understand the primary residence thing because at the time I was a renter, I was a tenant. So I was like, okay, I got that. I can borrow against that, right? Leverage that. No inflation. I'm saving money year after year. I'm renting more than what a mortgage would be because I'm paying someone else's mortgage plus their cash flow, right? So I was like, okay, I get that point, but I never understood insurance policies. And then when I started researching it and asking around before I went back to my banker, it was because you can leverage insurance policies to purchase for collateral instead of putting up cash. So my company started to take out $1 million policies on me as life insurance. So when I went to get and purchase commercial properties, instead of me putting up this huge down payment or showing collateral, right, cash reserves, I had this $1 million policy that I now made the lender a beneficiary of. So if anything happened to me, they recoup that. So that was worth something, right? That was money in the bank. So I started to just educate myself and I'm like, okay, boom, that was number one. Did that. And I'm like, now I'm beginning to understand it, right? We're talking about generational wealth. It's not because at my demise, right, at my death, I'm now letting my kids live this luxurious lifestyle off of my back. No, it's about leveraging the face value of all of your portfolio, right? Your entire, all of your assets and what that looks like when they say that your net worth. Remember, we can borrow against our portfolio. So it's really stacking the deck of including all of these areas of investments, 401ks, insurance policies, right? Our stocks, now Bitcoin. You can purchase real estate with Bitcoins without ever giving up the Bitcoin, right? Whole nother conversation. So we have all these other ways that we can invest in minimizing the risk, right? But realizing the same income potential, if not more, than breaking our backs and working these 9 to 5s, never receiving due justice on income or salaries or anything. And so that was number one, right? An aha moment, speaking to my banker, really willing to become a student and understand that. So then I was like, okay, let me start building my brokerage. And I opened up a real estate school to share the wealth, to share the knowledge with the community. Because I'm like, if I would have known this when I was 20 years old, you know how I would be, how far in life I would be, right? At 20 years old, 25 years old, getting into the real estate investment game. So I really wanted to give back and sow that seed and pay it forward in the community. So I opened up a real estate school, one, to help those who wanted a career in real estate to get licensed, but also to educate the community at, hey, we too can do this. And everything we lost in equality, we can gain back in equity, right? We can really do this and create that true generational wealth. So that was the goal number two. And then I started giving away all of my deals, partnering with other lenders that just really couldn't get it, that really wasn't for our community, right? That redlining, that disadvantage is really a real thing still in our demographics, right? In lending.
Yeah.
So I became a mortgage broker so I can break down those barriers, offer opportunities, and educate our community. Like, listen, you do not have to have $50,000 saved up to purchase a home. You do not. The most important thing is credit. And we were always taught that cash was king. And I tell everybody, cash is king, but credit is power. So what is a king with no power, right? So you want to make sure that we have our credit, because credit determines if you can purchase, if I can do any of these things. And then income determines how much purchasing power I have. So understanding that, hey, I got to get my credit right, because on paper, they need to see how well I pay bills, what I do with money that I don't really have access to. And then I can borrow the money, right, and start getting there, which leads us into the financing component, which is the last topic I
I
wanted
was
to
gonna say
jump in on.
we're gonna get right to it, but I did have a question from Marche Brown asking what's a low risk investment in your opinion, a sublease or REITs? What would you consider a low risk investment? Just before we hop into the finance, we got a couple
Right.
more slides. I know we're getting down to the last couple
So
minutes here.
so a low risk investment is going to be probably your buy and hold. Um I would say low risk, like savings account. If you're just talking about a broad the portfolio, insurance, because most insurance policies, right, you get a return of premium. So if you never borrow against your insurance policy, you can get all of the monthly premiums for the 15 years you paid on insurance returned back to you, right? So that's a retirement account. Or you can do return of premium on insurance policy. You could do a savings account. They do have some high yielding savings accounts. I know Ally is one of them. I think they do like 9% on a savings account, which is mind blowing, right? It's kind of low risk, kind of slow game, but you definitely can get it. Your 401k, those type of things.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And y'all, please submit your questions in the comments. But yes, let's get right into this finance portion you were talking about.
So now we don't have cash, right? I got the credit, I don't have the cash. Most people don't understand that a DSCR loan is what I really, really want to highlight. It's going to be the best opportunity to purchase real estate without income documentation. So DSCR is debt service coverage ratio, where the property itself qualifies you. So you don't have to worry about giving any tax returns, W-2s, or anything. The property itself, based off of the rental rates, will qualify the property. And if we can see that there is profit being made after the mortgage is satisfied, the property is approved. You just have to have a 620 credit score and the closing costs. And you have a great realtor that can negotiate your closing costs in the purchase. And you're coming out of pocket literally nothing to own an investment property with no income documents, right? No real risk except the financial risk if you default. But that is going to be our really, really great opportunity, DSCR loan. So find out about that. I'm not a fan of hard money loans. They're very predatory, um, huge interest rates with short terms. But another thing I wanted to point out is seller financing, right? Those private investors, do not be afraid to ask the owners to hold the note. They will love it. If they are savvy investors, they will love to be the bank. They will gain interest month after month, just like the bank does, and make money off of them letting you borrow money in a sense and hold the note. I own two commercial properties, and both of my commercial properties I purchased through seller financing. I negotiated the terms, the sellers agreed, and they are holding the note. So I didn't have to go to the bank for an opportunity to purchase that. So that's a great opportunity, a private investor. Your FHA loans as well is a great way to kind of get in the game. FHA allows you to purchase up to 4 units. They all have to be on the same property. So a fourplex or a triplex or duplex, where you occupy one of the units and the other units satisfy the mortgage plus cash flow. So that's a way to kind of be a beginner investor. You only have to put a really, really low down payment of 3.5%. Down payment assistance qualifies for these types of loans, and you can get closing cost assistance. So you can get a 4 unit property that you live in one of them for no money down, no money out of pocket, essentially working with the right team. And then other partnerships, right? Joining forces with someone else who's done it, proven concept, have the education and the background knowledge to do so. And you might have the credit, they may have the cash, partnering with them to make your first investment work and then reinvest in those profits. So make sure that you entertain partnerships as well. So those are going to be the ways that we invest, and how we finance those investments, right? The common financing options. Do not wait to find a property to talk to the lender. Speak with the lender first, understand your purchasing power, understand your ability to purchase and what that looks like for you. And now that you have the withal, right? The purchasing power ability, you've been pre-qualified. Now you go and search your property. Don't wait until you find the right opportunity. Create the opportunity. Once you understand what your value is, what you're worth, what you can do, go out and find a property that satisfies your purchasing power and get in the game.
Love that. So as we wrap up here,
So this is kind of strategies. If you're in your early career, focus on retirement accounts, emergency savings, right? Saving for rainy days. That first home time purchase, remember, primary residence is key, and insurance policies, like I mentioned. Mid-career, now you can start diversifying, getting into your stocks and your exchange funds. You can get into rental properties, right? That buy and hold, and then business ownership. And then later on in life, it doesn't have to be, but this is kind of a sequence, is that wealth building phase, right? Now we have multiple assets and now we have streams of income coming from different properties. We can now develop projects from the ground up. We can now diversify and reach over to commercial properties that have more values, more risk, more passive income, because we have multiple tenants now that satisfying our one property. And that's that wealth building phase, right? Now we understand it, we got our feet wet, and now we're building that portfolio. And that's that wealth stage.
love this. So this is a example portfolio that you kind of put together as you're advancing, right? So you have to
Yes.
start from somewhere. So people shouldn't be scared. But what's one portfolio habit that separates the people who are serious about wealth building from those who are just kind of gambling?
Um, Understanding your credit. So as a lender, I get applications all day, every day. And my first question is, do you have an idea of your credit? Nobody knows. They don't know what they're paying monthly. They don't know who they owe. They haven't checked credit in so long. And that determines if you can purchase. I say understand your credit portfolio, because even if the score is not there, we also look at the portfolio profile. So now FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac came out with no scores, and they came out with Vantage scores. So your Credit Karma scores, right? That's Vantage
Mhm.
scores. Instead of FICO, we can now use your Vantage scores to qualify you. So understanding your credit profile can be just as important as the credit score itself. So I
Mm,
say first step is understanding where you land with your credit. And that
yeah.
tells us how well you pay your bills, right? How well you do with money that you don't have in hand, but you have access to. So I would say focus on credit building, credit repair, and managing what you do have to see where you can now add to that portfolio.
Wow, Shawntavia, this has been great. We got a few comments coming in from across the platforms saying that this has been great. As we close out here, is there any final kind of myths or anything about investing or diversification that you want to help clear up before we close out?
I so I would leave you guys with this, that your portfolio should evolve as your income and goals evolve. And what you start out with does not have to be what you end with. As you can see, we're building on the wealth, and you define your own success. Educate yourself before you start investing and taking on risk. Do not follow the social media hype. Remember, these social media videos, platforms, YouTubers are selling you the program, selling you the idea. 90% of them do not invest, have no strategies, do not understand anything. They can just market the product well and make it seem like they're doing it. I can stand in front of any construction site, have a great gift of gab, and have you thinking that I've done it all, pay me $10,000 to help you do it too. So educate yourselves with real professionals and educate before you invest. And you define your own success, right? It looks different for everyone. Make sure what your goals are aligned with what your strategies are. In
Fantastic.
Turnkey Real Estate, right? Connecting you to the possibilities. Reach out to us if you are interested. We have free consultations, right? So if you're interested in learning more, understanding what your credit profile is, we do have credit repair in-house. If you need assistance with trying to become an investor, right? To get to the opportunity, we have tools for all of that. Of course, we have in-house lending as well. I'm also a general contractor, so we have ground up construction development opportunities, kind of all in-house, one-stop shop.
Yes, and you guys can do this in the morning time and grab you a cup of coffee at
Absolutely.
your newest business venture, your brick and mortar. Do you want to let folks know real quick before we hop off about the morning pour?
Yes, the Morning Pour is my coffee shop. It is at 1701 18th Avenue South in St. Pete. We're open Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. We have everything from a latte, macchiato, frozen cappuccinos, breakfast sandwiches, you name it, we got it. Spritzers, refreshers, something for everyone.
Thank you so much, Shawntavia. Thank you for being a part of the Urban League. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of President Nikki Gaskin Capehart and the entire Pinellas County Urban League, thank you again for joining us for another Make Money Mondays, and we will see you for the next one. Have a great night.
Thank you.